Reflection 2. Make sure of it. As I thought that the scenery shifted. A hot pain in my left arm. Okay. I think there was a few choices I didn't do there. Yeah. Okay, let's go back. Alright, I wouldn't believe the article. I probably wouldn't believe the article. There's no explanation for how the newspaper from the future could possibly exist. I'd probably call it ridiculous and then toss it aside without a second thought. I can't assume that the others feel the same. If you ask me why, it's because the words "three bodies" those are the survivors of the crash are written there, and those three names correspond to one of those people in the shelter cabin. And on top of that, even Uni's name appeared there, which meant that at the very least they were correct in saying that these 4 specific people survived the plane crash. And therefore there are only 2 possible explanations, either newspapers from the future or was from the past but written by someone with abnormal ability. But no matter which is true, I didn't change the fact that the first half of the article was dead on. In that case, it was only human nature to believe the rest of the article would come true. It looks like I'm going to die on January 17th. Is that what they thought? Yomogi, Lin, and Cocoro? On the surface, they're doing their best to appear calm, but in their hearts they're all beset by an excruciating uneasiness. That's what I thought. And on top of that, they were stuck inside the shelter cabin, trapped by a snowstorm. They had nowhere to run. Despair. In a way, I had nowhere to run either. After all... Oh, there we are. Cool. Can't do that. Can't do that. Can't do that. Speak quietly. What is it then? You have something you want to say? Speak kind words. Hey, Lin. What are you so scared of? Scared? Me? Lin raised her head. Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, that's right. Of the 4 of us here, the one who's most afraid is probably you, Lin. You put up a tough front, but that's not what you really like. The real you is more timid, more delicate, more fragile, more easily hurt than anyone else. That's why to protect everyone, yourself, you built this wall around you. Why are you saying that? Could you not talk like you know everything about me? Can't help it, because I do know everything. Lin bit her lip and narrowed her eyes. She looked at me dubiously. It's okay, Lin. You don't have to be scared, because I'm with you. Because I'll protect you. I said that to her with the intent of comforting her. I was trying to convey my innermost feelings for her. However... What is it with you? All of a sudden, Lin stood up. She'd heard enough. Don't you understand the situation wherein you could die here too? Looking down at me, she spat out those words as though she was sick at all. Despite that, you're still trying to make fun of me and confuse me. What's wrong with you? I've told you over and over again, but let me say it one more time. Don't you dare pretend to be Satoru in front of me ever again. Okay, got it? Having shouted all that, she whirled away and stomped off in the direction. She walked over to the corner of the room. Just spit through the hole leading to the underground storeroom as if trying to avoid me. I could do nothing but stop her. I could do nothing to stop her. No matter what I said to her right now, it would probably be useless, I thought. I could tell that she wasn't exactly the sound mind at the moment. Times like these, there's nothing I could do but leave her alone. I got off on the bed and left her side. Okay. Is there another choice? I don't think there was a choice here. Yeah. Okay. Whereas I thought that, the scenery shifted. A hot pain in my left arm. I reflexively jumped back and stood ready. A silhouette clutching a knife, it might still be nearby. But there was no one there. I restlessly looked around, bobbing my head like a chicken, but there was no trace of anyone else in the room. This is my room. Just to be safe, I closed the closet checked the closet under the bed and even in the bathroom. Not so much as a shadow to be found. I patted down my body but found no other wounds except for the one on the left arm. Whew, I muttered as I wiped the sweat from my brow. Somehow it looks like Cocoro managed to get away. A feeling of relief blanketed me. Was it only tension that kept me standing? Fatigue suddenly surged through me. I sat down on the floor, drained of energy. I couldn't take so much as a single step. My body was as heavy as stone. I was somehow able to move my right arm far enough to take out a wristwatch. Present time, 8:08 PM. Since it would take me time to make sure my room was safe, I estimated the transfer had taken place about 8:06. Put my wristwatch back in my pocket. And then I heard my head bang. Gently rubbed my throbbing left arm with my palm of my right. It felt odd to the touch. Something appears to be wrapped around my arm. I felt a strong pressure on my wound too. I stood back up, my rusty joints creaking and groaning as I did. Walked over to the door and locked it just in case. And then returned to the center of the room and took off my clothes. Looked at my left arm. Bandages. White bandages were wrapped around it. Part of the cloth was discolored by a thick line of red blood that still oozed from beneath its surface. Tracing that line with a fingertip, I felt it numb and tingling. Did Cocoro dress itself? I doubted she could bandage it so neatly just using her left right arm. It isn't even a dominant arm after all. So then, one of the other three? As I pondered the question, I decided to put my clothing back on, gritting my teeth against the pain. I passed my arm through the sleeve. Now then, and before I had time to catch my breath, emotions began to swell within me. An exulting feeling bubbled up from within me. Those were the emotions I felt towards Cocoro. Even if I thanked her 1,000 times or 10,000 or a million, I wouldn't become close to expressing the depth of my gratitude for her. But with Cocoro was the one who had let me escape from the demonic hands of the killer, there was nothing I could do. Even though it was my body, there was nothing I could do to help. Cocoro had saved my life. A deep emotion that couldn't be expressed with mere words expanded within me until it felt like it had burst forth from my heart. I wanted to hug her, and hug her, and hug her again, muss her hair and shout in her ears. Thank you, Cocoro, I'm so thankful I could sing. But that was an unfulfillable wish. At the very least, I could write it all down, I thought. Sat on the desk at once and picked up the pen. Eh? When I turned my eyes towards the memory pad, I noticed letters I don't remember writing had been scribbled. Nice to meet you, Yukidoh-san. I felt dizzy just reading the first line. The letters showed pretty low handwriting skills, like the scribbles of a foreigner trying to learn Japanese by imitating others. Then I remembered. That's right, Cocoro's left hand and the injuries to her left arm, so she can't help but write like this. It's inexcusable to complain about the poor handwriting or whatnot of someone who just saved my life. Instead, the shrewdness of the letters she'd written beautifully conveyed how heroic Cocoro was. The utmost effort trying her hardest, she wrote this, in order to give her an earnest gesture and the attention it deserved. I set up ramrod straight and went on reading her message. Nice to meet you, Yukidoh-san. I wonder what I should write. There are so many things I wanted to write, but I can't seem to bring it all together very well. You could probably tell just by looking, but my handwriting is like this too. This might be difficult to read, so please forgive me. First off, I'll report all the important things to you. I've read all the messages that you left me on the notepad. I was only able to listen to half of you. Yeah, I think we've already read this. Someone just explained a little detail. What happened to the body? I was only able to hear part of it. The culprit truth is that it's not as about generated ideas. It's Satoru. Stuff like that. Possible that the personality is targeting you, Satoru. Being careful. Next is Uni. It's extremely complicated case. I think she asks, like, have you met Uni? Maybe maybe he's teleporting. So really, have you met Uni or haven't you? Two things I want you to tell me. First is about Sphere, and the second is about the shelter cabin. The time that I'm in the shelter cabin, does anything happen? First about the earthquake. An earthquake occurred at Sphere because of that the breaker was tripped and blackout occurred. It's fixed now though, and at the time of transfer, I checked properly, but just like you told me. So here you are below. There's all the times that transferred. So that means 1, 2, 3, 5. One last thing, I'll do as much as I can while I'm in this world. So Satoru, please take care of my body. I will protect your body, Koroko. Wait for the day I can meet you, for sure. Somewhere will. So this is where Cocoro will end a message. Kindly forgive the roughness of my writing. Later then. P.S. If you do anything with my body, I'll never forgive you. Don't hunch it at all. P.P.S. Come to think of it, I forgot to write something important. About the newspaper, you saw it too. The newspaper that was in the shelter cabin. Guess she transferred mid-sentence. After the line, the newspaper that was in the shelter cabin, the rest of the page was blank. After the line, the newspaper that was in the shelter cabin, the rest of the page went blank. She didn't draw anything this time either. I was kind of hoping that she would, so I actually felt a little disappointed. That aside, I should write a reply before it's too late. I grabbed the pen and faced the white notepad. Cocoro, this is sort of sudden, but do you know where the highest mountain on the planet is? It's on the border of Nepal and Tibet. Elevation 8,850. Yeah, I know, this is talking about the highest thing, and then... So, the deepest point... He's thankful to her... We've read this in, like, Cocoro's chapter, so I don't really see the point of rereading it. Somebody, what did I mean? I put in the voice recorder too, but I don't know. The last one is Hattori. Why do you think someone's into you? Well, now that you mention, I haven't told you the details. Pushed off the clock tower, and stuff like that. After writing this, I realized something. That's right, that's it. Cocoro should know about the time. Cocoro had seen the killer. No, wait. Cocoro had asked in her message, what do you mean by somebody? As though she hadn't had the slightest idea. In other words, she didn't see the culprit after all. That is, everything took place while she was asleep after taking the pill. Is that it? any rate, I've got to ask. I once again turned to the notepad. Hey Cocoro, do you know who the culprit is? Please tell me. Let's see, if now the clock tower, the bathroom, my left arm being cut, there's 3 things happening in succession means that someone's after me. Someone's after my life. Can't leave. Anything important happen? No big things happen. Thank you saved me. There's the time patterns. Wait, what was that? I don't know yet. That please continue checking the time. Here on out. What? Like we have a big sample to work with. There was a piece of blue writing, but I don't know which part it was. Which word it was. I will try to no matter what. Take it upon myself to replay favors. Red accepts blue entirely. Second, you can't say. Wait. Didn't he say it was something else or something? I don't remember. Later, I finished writing the message and decided to go to the dining area for dinner. I was incredibly hungry. I'd realized I hadn't eaten anything since this morning. In the end, I didn't even get that, neither breakfast nor lunch that Itsumi made. Which reminds me, I wonder what happened. While I was away from Sphere, did Cocoro eat for me? At any rate, that didn't change the fact that I was hungry. Crucifies rat. Entering the dining area, saw Hattori and Uni sitting in their usual place. Why do I have 6% already? Wait. On the table was a pot of beef stew with pure white steam billowing from it. Additionally, there was salad, bread, glasses of water, and tableware and cutlery. Ah, perfect timing, Fuyukawa. It was just about time to come and call you. Tsumi said that moment she saw me. Though disappointed, I calmly corrected her. I'm Yukidoh Satoru right now. I'm sorry. Tsumi replied curtly, urging me to sit. We do this every single time. We had seriously started to consider putting a name tag on something whenever I left the room. With the 4 of us assembled at the table, dinner began. As the spoons traveled back and forth from mouth to plate, Mitsumi, Hattori, and Uni set their interval between mouthfuls to chat. It was neither noisy nor quiet. A supremely ordinary mealtime. None of the topics of conversation stood out in particular. The main subject was the earthquake that had occurred at Sphere. Since Cocoro had written about that in a message, I wasn't too surprised. I made the appropriate murmurs of agreement from time to time along the occasional forced smile, and thus we were able to ignore their conversation. Wow. I had only the one thing on my mind. The killer had slashed my left arm. It could very well be the case that the culprit is here among the 3 of them. I kept a close eye on the events going on around me as I ate, but nobody did anything suspicious, which means that the real culprit is someone else, lurking someplace unknown to us. I kept eating as I considered all these possibilities, so I don't actually remember how the meal tasted. Still, my hunger was out of control and I consumed the beef stew in a flash. By the way, from listening to the conversation, I did pick up one thing. It appears that Hattori was the one who treated my arm. I was a little surprised, so Hattori had a gentle side like that after all. Before returning to my arm, I tentatively decided to express my gratitude to her. Thanks, Hattori. Thanks, Hattori. And in reply she said, No need to thank me. It wasn't anything special. On returning to my room, I seated myself at the desk and reread the message from Cocoro one more time. There was only one part of it that troubled me. Because if that isn't so, I can't explain how Uni could exist as 2 people at the same time. Cocoro wrote at the same time. Meaning of that statement was plain to see. She probably still doesn't know that the 2012, probably doesn't know that it's 2012 in Sphere. She's under the impression that Sphere 2 exists in the year 2011 at the shelter cabin. I hesitated, should I reveal the truth to her or not? After going back and forth, I finally decided. I have no choice but to hide it from her. Because if I don't, she'll find out that I'm from the year 2012. And if she does, I'm sure there will be all kinds of questions. What happened with Mount Akakura on January 17, 2011? When that question comes up, how should I answer? Well, according to historical record, you're going to die in 5 days. Can't say such a thing to her. And that's why I decided to hide the problem from her, as well as the matter of the newspaper. Cocoro was just about to touch the newspaper in her message, but I didn't comment on it. I didn't know how I should answer her. It's the same with the Uni case. She seems to be questioning why 2 Unis can exist at the same time, but in order to explain it, no matter what, I'd have to reveal to her that it's Fia, it's the year 2012. If possible, I wanted her to keep an optimistic perspective on the situation. I didn't want her to know about the avalanche on the 17th. I can't saddle her with yet another burden. If it's just a matter of changing history, my own strength alone should be enough. That was what I decided. Casually, I glanced towards the window and the powdery snow dancing outside. The blizzard had stopped some time before. The incessant howling of the wind was gone, as though secretly snatched away. Having rested for a little while, I decided to leave the room. My goal, of course, was to search for the culprit. Is this what you'd call a proper investigation? It's not as if I wasn't scared of the killer, but what would wasting time in my room accomplish? I needed to find out as much as I could. I opened the door and walked to the dining area. Before I could even think about whose room to start my search in, the figure of a lone girl entered my field of vision. Hattori, what are you doing here? She was standing stock still near the table. This game keeps on trying to point to Hattori being the killer, and that's why I'm not thinking it much. And then they pointed towards Utsami in Kuroko's chapter, because it's like, oh, someone's chasing me. We go into our room. Utsami's in here. Why the hell was she in there? And it's that the game was pointing towards it. But the fact that if you connect Kokoro's chapter and Satoru's chapter together, and you work out that when Satoru was stabbed, that actually before then, Kokoro, as Satoru was talking to Uni, it feels more possible that it's Uni who's doing all this. Because Cocoro was talking to Uni, she jumped, Satoru came in, and Uni wasn't there. Everything was dark, Uni wasn't there, and next thing you know, there's someone with a knife. So where the hell did Uni go? It makes it more logical that Uni is the killer. And you may say, but isn't that pretty obvious? No, it isn't. Because, remember, you're going by person. You're not going, oh, so this happened, and then they jumped, and then this happened. We're going only by, each person's chapter. So the only way you'd actually work out it was Uni is if you actually went back to Kokoro's chapter. So it just makes it a little less obvious, because you'd actually personally have to go back, other than the game actually pointing it out to you. Because that's what it's done. It's like, oh, something bad's going on. Oh, Hattori's there. Something bad's going on. Oh, Utsami's there. They haven't really done that for Uni, and it makes me doubt him for some reason. Or, for all we know, it could be someone else. I don't know who, though. As ash and shadow enveloped her, it felt as if I were viewing a faded old photograph. Hey, what's wrong? I slowly drew closer to her. She didn't answer. Her head hung low. She was staring fixedly at the floor. Beside her feet lay a dark brown lump, dirtied all over. It was making weird twitching, squirming movements. Ah, the mouse. What's this? I bent closer and took a good hard look at the thing on the floor. A rat. It's a rat. I could tell at a glance that it was on the verge of death. Its limbs were going into gruesome convulsions, its eyes so hollow that they could have rotted away. Its mouth flapped open as shown in a desperate attempt to breathe. But why here? I stood up and looked at her. Her face was dull and expressionless, hardly like a flesh and blood human. Her eyes held no warmth. Her skin was as parched and lifeless as a sculpture carved from hard sand. It seemed like if I were to so much as touch her, her whole body would crack and crumble apart. And beside her, the girl whose soul had vacated her body. Completely bewildered though I was, anyway, we have to help that. Murmured that. Help? Oh. Tori suddenly spoke. Yeah, that's right. It's going to die if we just leave it like that. I had no idea what she was thinking, but just then, without warning, Tori grabbed the rat by its tail. With all her strength, smashed it against the corner of the table. What? Oh, my heart stopped. Though I tried to say anything, I couldn't help but breathe. What the hell? Ah! It died. It died! She muttered those two words, dangling the dead rat like a pendulum from my hand. What the Okay, Hattori has problems. Then, with no more care than you'd show to an old rag, she casually tossed the body away. Why? I don't understand. Her face warped into an expression of boredom. You, what have you... Those words escaped my trembling throat, my voice hoarse. Tori looked away from me, her lips forming a pout. An expression of complete unconcern. She was calm, as though nothing had happened. That rat now lay dead in the corner of the room, blood issuing from its mouth. It wasn't even conversing anymore. The thing lying in the corner was no longer a living being. It had been reduced to a mere object, just a rat. For some reason I felt very sad. The corpse of the rat lying miserably in the corner seemed so pitiful to me. Kagome, the bird within the cage. When will you come out? In the evening lit by the dawn. The crane and the turtle slipped and fell. Who is that behind you? What? What does that song have to do with this? Requiem. Okay, we've already got 3% onto it somehow. Why did Tori suddenly bring up the Kagome song? Was it supposed to be some sort of requiem? I just couldn't remember her actions at all. So even after the transfer, the echo of a voice still resounded in my mind. I couldn't get it out of my head. The gruesome scene then unfolded before my eyes. I'm at the shelter cabin now. I know that, but Tori's cruel expression was still scorched in my mind. Even now, it rises like a phantom before me. Somehow, holding it together, I sat down in a nearby log chair. The imagery of the shelter cabin. I could hardly take in what was going on around me. Yomogi and Lin stood frozen in place like in the middle of the room. Uni was crouching beside the stove. The air in the room was growing heavy. It was as though some ominous entity was filling the room with stagnating presence. What's wrong? I asked, but nobody's much tried an answer. Still wearing a grave expression, Yomogi slowly turned to face me. Yukidoh-kun? Yeah. Did something happen? No, nothing. Don't worry about it. And with that, none of them spoke as much as another word before bed. It seemed that the blizzard outside had also ceased at some point. Within that silence, night had fallen. Wrapping myself in the blankets on the bed, I took off the wristwatch. And the third day. Respite. It's been a while since I've seen a blue sky. Just like the people of old who worshipped the sun as a god, I truly felt like thanking it from the depths of my heart for the downpour of sunlight. Yesterday I spent the entire day without taking a single step outside. Perhaps that's why the air was so delicious to me now. I breathed in a lungful of fresh air. The coldness of it permeated my entire body. The inner parts of my nasal cavities began to sting, but it was refreshing and it felt good. Last night, the last night of a year ago, that is, I'd gone to bed in the shelter cabin at Mount Cocoro. When I woke up, I'd returned the sphere. That's why I didn't know exactly when the snowy clouds had been stripped away from the sky above Osage Island. Regardless, the snowstorm that had lasted for 2 days had now completely disappeared. The time is around 9 AM. Yeah, damn it. Oh, this is the point. We'll be able to see what Asami was talking about with him. I say walking, but even talking so much as a single step was no easy task. The fresh snowfall was deep enough to bury my feet. The surface of the snow was frozen over like the glaze on a pastry. My feet punched holes in the icy upper layer and made rustling sounds as they tampered down the powder underneath. The resistance from the snow put extra stains on my lower body, but even so, walking itself wasn't that hard. What was hard was resisting the urge to jump and frolic about in the refreshing wind. A landscape of untrodden virgin snow spread out before me. The edge disturbing the untouched land was tickling my primitive instincts. It felt a little childish, but I was hopping around like an innocent puppy as I cut through the field of white. I ran out of breath and leaned against a wall. A nearby wall. The massive circular wall that enclosed Sphere. I'd known the wall was here, of course, but looking up at it again, like this, it really did feel huge as it loomed high above me. A height not even a world record pole vaulter could clear. It was clear to me that trying to jump over it was futile, so I tried climbing up the wall instead. But it was an unforgiving wall, devoid of hand or footholds and impossible to climb. Just for the sake of it, I tried kicking it with all my might. There was the muffled sound of my foot striking the concrete, but that was all. Of course, there wasn't so much as the slightest tremor in the wall. As if declaring itself the very symbol of immobility and steadfastness, the massive wall stood with silent dignity before me. I headed back to the way I came. Sphere's main building was in the distance, the snow covering it shone a bright white. Looking at it from a distance, it looked like a castle made of ice from some old myth or fairy tale. The central clock tower soared high into the sky like a tower holding a captured princess. While walking under the blue sky, I thought about how Sphere might look from above. First of all, it's round. At the center of the circle was a clock tower with a radius of about 100 meters from the concrete wall that encircled it. The entire area enclosed by the circle is Sphere in its true sense. Sphere wasn't just a building standing in the middle. Well, then if it were a radius of 100 meters, though, this is an estimate, then the overall circumference of the wall would be about 628 meters here, which meant that the area of the entire site was around 3.14 hectares. Oh, it's pi. Sorry, if anyone knows math. I guess, even with grade school arithmetic like this, I was able to understand the approximate scale for Sphere. 3.14 hectares, if you convert it, then it would be about 7.76 acres. This value corresponded to about 2/3 of the space enclosed by the Paradise Park Dome. Well, it wasn't like everything would be resolved if I just figured out the number. This was something of a bad habit of mine. How stupid. I should stop using my head for something so pointless. Shook my head, surprising myself. There's no point in finding out what the numbers are if it didn't feel like they'd be important later on or anything. I stopped looking up at the sky and let the abundant sunlight wash over me. This refreshing feeling couldn't be put into numbers.